Hello, my lovelies, and welcome to the Heartland Hot Dish podcast. This is where we come to the table and rediscover the connection and meaning to our food and culinary treasures of the Great Lakes region. Join us as we discover the traditions and stories woven into the fabric of the Heartland cuisine, from the iconic dishes that define the Midwest to the hidden gems waiting to be discovered. We'll take you on a mouth-watering journey through the diverse culinary landscape of the Great Lakes area. Get ready to indulge your senses and ignite your appetite as we explore the rich tapestry of flavors that make up the Heartland Hot Dish. So I don't know about my taste buds, but I'm getting ready. They're being warmed up today, Daniel, for this intrigue of cheesy fudgeness.
That's exciting. This whole thing is.
I feel like I need to re-record the intro for this episode separately as its own thing.
Right. So this topic came to us through my friend Janelin. And Janelin is married.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Janelin. And Janelin is married to a gentleman named Chris, who in a former life was a chef and was from Iowa. And Janelin insisted to me that Velveeta Fudge was an Iowa thing. And so since we have this podcast, I was like, okay, well, this is, seems to be Midwestern.
This is perfect.
Did a little bit more research, and lots of other folks also suggested that Velveeta Fudge was a Midwestern thing, even though not specifically Iowa. I tasked our research.
He's making such strong eye contact with me right now. I'm feeling very uncomfortable.
Right. I tasked our research director, Lee, who's magnificent at doing research, to see if she could verify this claim of its origins, and she could not. Right.
I love this. It's underground. It hasn't even made it to the internet.
Right. No. There's so much on the internet about this. There's a ton on the internet about this, and not just that, but other chefs. Are you familiar with Sean Brock?
Yes.
Right. Sean Brock writes about making Velveeta Fudge.
Oh, Sean.
Right? And but it was his grandmother's from the South. So there's also this idea, right? And some folks who are going to insist that that this might be a Southern thing, right? And what Sean's quote says, I should read you what Sean actually says. This is a quote directly from Sean Brock. In my family, fudge is a holiday dessert, and it may come as a shock to some, but the key ingredient in this fudge is Velveeta cheese. The ultra creamy nature of the processed whey melts more evenly than traditional cheese. Everyone knows I am dedicated to heirloom ingredients. Now I suppose you can add Velveeta to that list. That's the Sean Brock quote.
I just you know that you've entered like enemy territory here, because my people invented fudge. Like, where I come from in England is fudge town. Like,
Right,
we
and-
really love making Devon fudge.
And we had
Our line is Devon knows how we make it so creamy. Like, I get that's a bad line, and it has not aged well. However, that is our line.
here at the Heartland Hot Dish. we do a dedicated issue on episode on fudge, or was it part of just Midwestern?
I think it
summer
was just
foods?
Midwestern foods. Yeah.
It was on the Midwestern summer.
It was one of
foods.
the
Right.
3 or 4 that we did. Yeah.
Right.
And we did Superman ice cream at the same time.
Okay.
Look at us
Right.
going back. If
I
you
know.
haven't heard that one, please click backwards
Right.
towards our previous episode.
Because this is where we learn that for Kieron, fudge has nothing to do with chocolate, right?
100%.
And here we are in
100%.
America,
Fudge
and
is just its own flavor.
You know what else it doesn't have anything to do with? Velveeta cheese.
Velveeta cheese, right? So right. At one point, I was looking at the history of Velveeta because, right, we're living in this age. I'm just going to take a little step back. We're living in this age where people do things, ridiculous things that make you angry on purpose to food and promote them just to get eyeballs and looks.
Dried
right?
pasta,
And-
block of Velveeta cheese in a glass dish, chuck other things
Right,
on.
or take a 2-pound brick of Velveeta, stuff it into a turkey's cavity, and call it. I don't even know. What to
Yes,
call it, right? But
indeed.
But I want to make clear. I need to make clear that is not what we are doing here today. Right.
This is a
Right.
thing.
This is a thing, and it's unclear exactly how long it goes back, right? But you see lots of different recipes for this in in church cookbooks, and neighborhood cookbooks and country stuff, right? You see it in the South, you see it in the Midwest, right? And it made me very curious. So the question is, what is Velveeta? It's kind of an open question because it has gone through some changes, right? When Velveeta started, it's not the thing that it is now, right? Velveeta started with really noble intentions. It was designed to prevent food waste.
Sure.
Right. Damaged cheeses couldn't be sold. Right.
Good things.
Right. We're going to invent a way of taking that stuff that would be trash and making it into a nutritious sellable product.
Yes.
Right. Sodium citrate.
Sodium citrate can be a magical little thing.
Yeah, whey protein.
Right.
Which was one of the biggest selling points about this cheese was, its nutritional value from the whey protein that was being added into it.
Right. Coming after the Depression into World War II, there's rations on milk and cheese.
That's where so much of this comes from.
I would like to add that the precursor to Velveeta was developed by somebody who is Swiss. So somebody who knew a lot about cheese and chocolate.
You also know that the Swiss are the scariest chefs in the world.
Right. But they developed something that was supposed to be like a Limburger and developed it in New York as more of an industrialized cheese. That was a precursor to Velveeta.
Look at you two.
Yeah.
I'm just here as the host today. I love this.
Somebody who knew their cheese, which then it didn't even end up being a cheese.
So I bought this. I went to Kroger and I actually paid.
Was there a lot?
There was a lot.
Like it's a common purchased item.
Well, so one, this was actually telling for me. I didn't know where to look for it in the store.
Sure, I'd have gone to the dairy-ish aisle.
Yeah.
But clearly shelf stable. It has to be refrigerated.
Was it in the baking aisle?
It wasn't in the baking aisle. It was adjacent to the baking aisle.
Adjacent.
It was adjacent. But
did it have its own display?
It did. There was its own display.
I bet Velveeta's doing super well. TikTok has made Velveeta a whole new world.
Yeah. Right. So this is the 1 pound block.
So was it refrigerated?
It was not refrigerated. I have talked to some people because I posted about this experiment on my own Instagram feed last night as I was doing it, because I was kind of shocked and horrified myself that I was doing this. And I was kind of curious for input and to ask other people their thoughts. And one of my friends, who was also a former chef, had found this in his supermarket in the refrigerated section, and he thought that it had to be refrigerated, and that actually made it more like cheese. It turns out that's just a grocer's marketing gimmick to either a marketing gimmick or or
an honest mistake from somebody in that game, maybe,
or a way of helping make sure that their consumers can find it, because my instinct would be to look for this where the rest of the other cheese would be. Mm-hmm. Right. But it is not cheese. It can't be called cheese. It's called pasteurized recipe cheese product. That's its official designation.
You do know that my friends in England listen to this are going to be so consumed by this.
It's fascinating. So the last, and I was a little bit angry when I bought this because there is this 16-ounce one, which is the one that I bought, but there is an 8-ounce one that was just $1 less, right? And I was really just righteous indignation that if you only want to have 8 ounces of this, you're going to have to pay through the nose. But if you wanted,
you know who owns that, right? Who owns Velveeta?
Kraft Heinz.
Yeah, Kraft Heinz.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Yep.
Which I think
do God's work sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I think now, because it's owned by Kraft Heinz, makes it really sort of fit into this Heartland Hot Dish Midwestern Great Lakes.
100%.
Right.
They have lots of varieties. Now I'm on the Velveeta website, just so we know.
Oh yeah. So the last time I bought this before this this current iteration was when I was in my early 20s. I used it to make a microwave cheese fondue.
Okay.
Right.
All right. So again, the citric acid in it, super supportive for things like fondue.
Right. A little bit of beer, a little bit of garlic powder. Can't remember exactly.
Probably
the
makes
that went
great cheddar ale soup.
Yeah.
Without necessarily having cheese in it, but it does the right viscosity.
Exactly, and we had talked about in the past about using the Campbell's condensed cheese soup.
Yep.
That actually doesn't have much cheese or dairy in this. I
100%.
might be tempted, in its place to use Velveeta, because right. This actually.
Sorry, I'm on the Velveeta website, and there's some fun recipes.
There's some really fun recipes. But so if you don't really know, right? This one has been mostly used. I ended up using 12 ounces because
it's like heavy duty foily package.
So it's a foily package. In some ways, it looks like There's a little knife. I could you
It's
cut
a
this
beautiful
with
antique cheese
That
knife
comes with
he's
every
using for
box.
Velveeta.
A beautiful antique knife.
but when you get it, it almost looks like it's in a cream cheese wrapper.
Yeah.
Right? Very cleverly. Has little 2-ounce markers along the outside. I found those not to be quite as precise because I needed 12 ounces and it cut 11.5 ounces. That's fine. I had a scale so I could get that right. But the texture of this when you open it, I was expecting like cream cheese for it to sort of stick to the container a little bit. But no, it doesn't, and it's a little bit. I can pass this
It's
around.
not
so
American cheesy.
It's really its own.
It's firm.
It's firm. It's a little bit squishy. It feels a little bit powdery. I don't know if you guys want to pass this
now I
around
do.
and
This has
feel-
no
right.
journey anymore, right? This is its end of
Feel
its
this
life.
right. If you want to use the knife and take a little sample yourself to
It's
give
You
it
know
a-
I'm going to.
to give it a taste, right? Right, velvet, right? So, right. So they say, right, that the name Velveeta is based off of its velvety texture. I'm not so sure I would, right, say velvet, right? It's right,
Oh, I'll use my
Right.
fingers. It's okay. I'm pulling the sucker up. Oh.
right?
Ooh.
Oh.
It's almost like cloud-like, pillow-like, right? It's squishy.
I don't want to hate because I don't want to be rude to the vegan.
No, we don't want to be rude to the
I'm
food,
not
right?
like
Right.
it's a thing.
And it has its role. I don't think most people are.
Well, I
eating
think it
this-
introduces people to the benefits of like the sciencey side of food, where citric acid can make some real magic. That's a real thing, and if this
Yes.
is one of those foods that helps people understand that, fantastic. It wouldn't be my choice
Sure.
going in.
Mhm.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
It's like an American slice. It's like a big old American slice kind of thing ish.
A big chunk of
yeah.
American cheese. But if you
It's
had American
almost-
American cheese is going to still be firmer than this.
What's that? When you have a substance that's hard when you punch it, but soft when you press it in. What's it called?
Oh,
God.
you make it with the cornstarch and the water.
Yeah.
Yes.
It has that texture.
Yeah.
A
Like
little bit,
yeah,
but if you punch it,
yeah,
you'll
this
just
rem-
smush it.
This
It'll-
does
it'll go right
remain
through.
the same texture all the way
It's
through.
like emulsified. Yeah. It's
Okay. I mean, it smells like American cheese.
It's like the texture is very much like, so this was designed to bring scraps of cheese together, right, and make it solid and shelf stable, and that's what the texture is like.
I mean,
It's
I'm
like
not going to
somebody
hate on
took-
it because it's not.
No.
It's like somebody took some scraps and put it together and
What is
homogenized
what
it.
is the flavor then?
For me, the flavor reminds me most of the powdered cheese that comes with macaroni and cheese. But it has
yeah.
that powdery dustiness to
Yeah.
to me, to my palate.
It has a
Yeah.
texture. I mean, there is, even though it's velvety smooth,
Mhm.
it makes you think that it's dry and powdery.
dry and
somehow.
powdery. Right. I get that dry and powdery flavor. Right. That's
Wow.
Yeah, it is very umami.
It is
It's
weird.
very-
It is that box craft mac and cheese flavor.
Right.
In an okay
yeah.
way.
right. But that's the
What is
flavor
the
that it
magic thing
exists.
that does that then?
Right. So the first ingredient is skim milk, right? Skim milk and then milk, right?
Yeah.
First two ingredients, right? Then canola oil, milk protein concentrate, sodium phosphate. Then we've got food starch, whey protein concentrate, maltodextrin, whey, salt, calcium phosphate, lactic acid. Sorbic acid is a preservative.
I have all of those things
Right.
downstairs. Just to be clear, like I know that's very sciencey sounding chemicals. They're really not. Like
Yes.
I have sorbic acid
Mhm.
downstairs in my kitchen at the farm. They have a place in specific things when you're making specific things. Like there are ways to hold on to fats and liquids and break them down. When you make a really great chocolate cake, you can put sorbic acid in there and it can really help you retain fats more stably in a cake. Whether you want to or not is a game you can play. In that
Sure,
regard.
right. And I was not saying this as a to
No,
any sort of scare factor.
They
but
don't actually
but
seem so
I
scary.
appreciate right.
Yeah, like
right,
they're not scary titles to me as far as chemicals go
Yeah,
or
so
substances.
so milk fat, sodium alginate, sodium
that.
sodium citrate.
Okay.
Then the enzymes. One that I'm not familiar with is apocarotenol. Annatto, which I think is probably another coloring agent.
Yeah, that
right?
is.
Another
That's
coloring
you
agent.
can get that block of that.
Right.
Yep.
Make it
Cheese
vibrant
culture and vitamin A palpitate
Do you know why cheese is orange?
because of the annatto.
Yeah, but do you know why the Americans have a specific color when you make cheese orange?
The idea was that the idea was that cheeses that had more fat in them had a more of an orange.
So in the summertime, in the spring, summer, your cheeses would be more orangey and you'd sell them for more money. So in the winter in America, they would start putting a little bit of food dye in to sell you the better. Like, it was the winter cheese, but they wanted to make it look like the summer spring cheese. So they put some food dye, and then America's like, okay, if you're gonna dye it, any amount of dye, you have to put at least this much in.
Right.
And that became the stabilizer. I like that. Oh, if you're gonna cheat, here's your way to cheat. Right. That's not scary. That's not actually as scary.
No,
it is sad there isn't actually like cheese in it. It has the foundations of cheese in it, in that it's got the dairy and it's got some of the enzymes. And really, it's probably got the flavorings that are trying to get you there. But okay,
right, but not quite cheese, right? And what's interesting is at one point this was marketed as a health food product, right? And even got the I think it was the American Medical Association stamp of approval.
That's so fun.
Said that it helped contribute to firm flesh. that was.
Firm flesh.
My belly, firm flesh.
I need a little bit firmer, right? So this thing has 16 servings in it. So a serving is an ounce, 70 calories per serving. 4 grams of fat, 1 gram of saturated fat. It's the sodium that I think is the real killer. 390 milligrams.
That's disturbing
in that ounce.
And that's the preservation. That's why.
Right. 4 grams of protein. But
okay,
right.
I have some fudge in front of me, and I want to eat it, and I've been very patient now.
Right. So right. To be fair, right.
Okay.
I haven't tried this yet.
No,
I have not. I wanted to try it.
This was fresh from the website, right?
So I actually so I made this. So I made this last night, and I was debating about which recipes to use, right? Because there are a lot of different recipes that are out there. The most traditional ones seem to be not the ones featured on the Velveeta website. They seem to be, much more focused on just keeping things super simple. So the traditional one goes for the full pound brick,
all in.
Right. Just right. Keep things simple. Don't measure. Right. Right. So the pound brick of the Velveeta.
Okay.
Right. The thing that was the most shocking, I think, to me, and the reason why I did not go full in, was because if you use the whole pound with the traditional recipe, you're using 4 pounds of powdered sugar.
I mean, you've got to fight that slightly cheesy flavor with something.
Right,
so
right.
Okay,
4 pounds of powdered sugar, a full pound of butter, and it was.
I like the 1-on-1. That's helpful.
Oh yeah, no, everything about this was easy, right? A full cup of cocoa powder, too. Right,
that makes it chocolatey because we use cocoa powder.
Because we use cocoa powder. Right? So you take the right.
You're growling about the cocoa powder.
Yeah,
That's Velveeta.
That's actually the thing that's most upsetting.
Yeah, the cocoa powder.
So the traditional thing is right, and
please tell me use Ashkenazi cocoa powder, because that would make me joyous in this moment.
I'm guessing it was Hershey's.
Please, was it Hershey's?
I'm going to get to this. I will not be rushed.
I really want to try the fudge.
You're going to get to try the fudge. Where was
I? You had full pound of each, and I was saying
full pound of each. Right. So
weighing.
Right, and traditionally it could be made with margarine or butter. Right.
Yep.
Some of the older ones have margarine.
Margarine's definitely fallen off the. I'm sorry, but margarine's faded away in our culinary world.
You don't have to apologize. I feel like this is a good conversation. This is why.
No,
I feel like
I
wanted
it's
to.
Interesting
make
how
this slow.
My mother. I remember margarine being around a lot more as a child, and it has definitely disappeared into the background.
Yeah, my mother used margarine growing up.
Because it must have been the health food thing, the same with the Velveeta. And
it was cheaper than butter, too.
Right.
Way cheaper than butter.
But also we've now since discovered that partially hydrogenated oil is really bad. But now they make some margarine that are not partially hydrogenated. So
less
the margarine. So the margarine has sort of kept up or changed, right? I wanted to optimize for trying to make this as delicious as possible.
100%. Okay.
Right. But the so the way that the original recipe would go, you could if you're going old school, right? Double boiler. Take the meltable ingredients, the fat, right, and the cheese.
Yep.
Right. Combine those. Take the dry ingredients, whisk them together. Right.
And that's cocoa powder.
And that's going to be cocoa powder and the sugar and the amazing amount of sugar.
What do you call powdered sugar? It's just powdered sugar over here.
Powdered sugar.
Confectioners.
See, ours is icing sugar is also the other name we
Icing
use.
sugar.
Powdered icing, sorry. Okay.
Right.
So you're not taking the
just going
sugar
for my
to
Brits
softball
friends.
stage or
Nope. No.
Oh no, there's no temperature.
This whole thing is designed to be super easy, which also when
The
I
texture's
think
very
about
good.
when I think about the Heartland Hot Dish thing, and I think about casseroles and sort of thinking about few ingredients and making something very easy and quick to prepare, this falls really very squarely in that world.
If you gave this to a Brit, they might say this is a little over soft fudge, but it's not an unpleasant fudge. Textural. I haven't tried it yet. I just feel wise.
And I am not a fudge maker. I don't even like fudge, right? We've talked about this. I know, right? So, and I've got strong feelings about fudge that made their way into this as well. So, right. So what you do then is you
the man made Velveeta Fudge. Just to be clear, you've
got your melted stuff, you've got your dry stuff. You fold the dry into the wet, right?
Okay.
Some people say you fold the wet into the dry, but you combine the two. You mix them all together. Put a little bit of vanilla.
Did you KitchenAid it, or did you do it by hand?
I did it by hand.
Okay.
And then you put in some vanilla extract if you want nuts. Precedent.
And we've got nuts in here.
We do have nuts in
There's
there.
nuts in there.
Right. Right. All the recipes suggested that you chop the nuts, but they also said that you're going to cut it into 1-inch squares. I'm like, why the hell would I chop the nuts if I'm going to cut this into squares anyway?
Sure.
That seems like a waste of time.
Even distribution.
Right. Right. Well, and I think that's a very good point because they don't call for that many nuts.
Yeah.
Now, I decided in lieu of using those more traditional recipes or even having those to go actually to the Velveeta site and use theirs. And the logic behind that was really twofold. One, the formulations for Velveeta may have changed over time.
Sure, 100%. We've said that it was originally had some scrap cheese in it. It's now changed. So when it maybe first came out.
So who knows, how many of these recipes were holdovers from a day when the Velveeta was different than it is now.
100%.
Velveeta also employs, chefs and food scientists, and
they do, whether people like it or not. They're a real. I knew the guy that was the chef for Kraft in the UK for Heinz way back when. So maybe not Velveeta because it's never made it to the UK, to my knowledge. But yeah, they're real chefs doing real work.
So they know what they're talking about. So I went with the Velveeta one, which was a little bit different on a couple of fronts. One, instead of using the cocoa powder, it actually calls for unsweetened chocolate. Which I like because I was looking at some of the pictures of some of the Velveeta fudge that was out there, and because of the cocoa powder instead of chocolate, their color was paler. Let's say. Right, and I really wanted to to try and make this as good as possible. I was a little bit concerned might be the wrong word, but taken aback by the Velveeta one, and it makes really a lot of sense. The Velveeta one uses more Velveeta in it.
Good for them.
Makes sense.
I know. So instead of
sell their product, right?
So I was already just committing to doing just 2 pounds of powdered sugar because I was going to make anything that required more than 2 pounds of powdered sugar.
It's a lot of powdered sugar.
So my plan had been to do 8 ounces of Velveeta in the 2 pounds. This was 12 ounces in the 2 pounds, but it also added 2 tablespoons of light corn syrup, which I imagine compensates a little bit, for the extra cheese. Right. So I used the cup of the butter, and then it was 6 ounces of anywhere between 4 to 6 ounces of unsweetened chocolate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
The corn syrup makes sense since you're not doing the softball stage sugar.
Yeah, it's basically got your inverted sugar of some.
Yeah.
And I also thought it would also be beneficial for the texture. I thought that would make some good sense. Right. And then I eyeballed in my measuring cup about 1.5 cups of walnuts. And as I was mixing,
I appreciate the walnut.
As I was looking at this, I was like, you know what? It needs more walnuts. So I put in another 1/2 cup. So there are about 2 cups of walnuts in here. But in the spirit of keeping it easy, right? I neither chopped them nor did I do the sort of chefy thing that I was tempted to do of toasting them before.
Okay.
Right? Trying to just keep this easy. And then the teaspoon of vanilla extract. So the process of making it, so I used the double boiler instead of doing the microwave, right? So I could have some control over it. Something really interesting happened in that stage, and maybe you guys would have some.
Go lumpy.
It didn't go lumpy. Some of the fats
Separated.
Separated.
Did they re-homogenize when it was cooling down then?
They re-homogenized when it was cooling
so
down.
That's the citric acid probably doing
that's what Velveeta does, right? Velveeta is meant to be kept in a solid form, not melted.
Yeah.
So that was, but it's also supposed to melt sort of very smoothly. So I don't know if it was the addition of the butter or the cocoa fat.
You've increased its fat content, so there isn't enough acid holding it
To
together.
hold it
Yeah,
together.
so
Right, yeah.
basically you split it.
Yep.
But it had enough once it was cooling. Did you continue to whisk as it was cooling, or you just poured? You whisked it.
I was folding in the powdered sugar, sort of in batches.
Sure,
as
that's
it was
probably
cooling,
taking
and
some of that absorption.
yeah,
into it.
right,
That
right,
makes
right,
sense.
right.
Okay.
So the texture on this may be maybe a little bit funny because of that split, right? But then it was super simple. Took it, pushed it into I lined my 9x13 Pyrex glass baking dish with parchment paper. I didn't oil it or anything. There's enough fat
Was
already in this.
Pretty warm when you poured it,
Um,
or did you let it cool a little bit?
no, I mean
Because your walnuts,
because
I'm not being I'm actually going to analyze it. Your walnuts are pretty decently distributed. The three pieces I've got in front of me, they're not all at the bottom.
Mhm.
They're pretty stable all the way through. Like, I'm not disappointed that they've settled to the bottom.
sure.
So it clearly formed up pretty quickly.
Oh, very quickly. There is nothing liquid or molten. Once you put in the 2 pounds of the powdered sugar and that's all in there,
Oh, it became very firm.
it was already reasonably firm,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
Right. So it was pressing it down into the right. I was scraping out the bowl and really pressing it down into the dish.
Okay.
And now it's the moment of truth. I don't know if you have a camera that you want to sort of show.
I know. I'm going to do mine right from me.
Right.
I'm going to
Yeah,
maybe
right.
do some solid. I've never really changed the photo. Maybe we can add photos. I
I'm
haven't gone into
choosing
that
one with
Can
what looks like fewer nuts because I want to really get the texture itself without the nuts.
Do you ever watch Emmy Made?
No.
She's got a YouTube page. She's got Facebook. She's got Instagram. All of it, and she does a lot of recipes. She did this back in 2019. Velveeta Fudge. So I don't know what's that. 5 years ago now, 3 million views, and that's 2019. Can we
Yeah.
get 3 million listens for Velveeta Fudge?
I feel like it's been done a few times now, right?
It has.
yeah.
It's never come to me
Yeah.
till
Mhm.
you had brought this up as a thing. I have not heard of it. It has not made its way to me. It does not smell unpleasant.
No.
What chocolate was it used?
Oh, so I used 100% Ghirardelli. Which is what
Sure.
was right there in the
Yeah.
supermarket. It was
Sure.
right in the
Middle of the
baking area.
road,
right?
like happy chocolate.
Yep.
I do like that it was chocolate, not cocoa powder.
Yeah, agreed.
Mhm.
And I do. If you guys can try to get a bite without the nut, I encourage you to try it seriously because what's interesting about it is like you do get kind of a granulated texture, but you know what it reminds me of? It's like somewhat solidified brownie batter,
Mhm.
right?
Oh,
and I
no.
think it's because of that canola oil, and
It tastes like pecan pie bottom.
there you go. Yeah.
You know the jelly like sugariness underneath pecan pies? Like well, sorry. The bakehouse's pecan pie is exceptional. It's got lots of pecans in it. Love it.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get like a Costco one or a
Mhm.
store bought one, you got that little like solidified. I don't mind that at all. I'm not hating.
Oh, this.
Yeah.
No, this the thing in front of me. Is it fudge? No.
No, so this is a good question. How, besides being chocolate, how is this not fudge to you?
Texturally, it's not about it tasting, and because I still have the cheese in front of me, the Velveeta product, the cheese like. It is too soft.
It is too soft. Yep.
It has no structure holding it together, and that's the crystals that haven't happened in making the sugar to
Mhm.
temperature.
Mm-hmm.
But
It's
it's
not,
not. It still holds its shape in these
Now-
squares.
If I took this so if I made this without the nuts,
Mhm.
and I took this to Joni's Christmas thing, maybe I will. Oh, that would
Should.
that would be so.
Don't tell them.
Yeah, I'll be like, I'm so proud of this. I'm gonna do that.
Mm.
Jan, because you're probably the only one who listens to this. Don't say anything. And Jan, we're going undercover Velveeta Fudge. I think that a lot of people would eat this and think this is fudge.
No.
This is not
Right.
fudge.
No.
Like, not in an unpleasant, I'm upset with it way. It's just too. It is too soft. I don't mind the granular. I don't mind the
I
texture.
don't mind the granular either.
And you can get that. So you can get a chalky fudge. So that sometimes when you make fudge, you boil sugar to a temperature with its cream and its butter in there, and it comes up, and then you beat it to cool it down, and you're whipping air basically into it to change it. And that time that you beat it or how you choose to cool it creates its texture in fudge. And that's what this is missing.
Right.
It's not bad. It's surprisingly not bad. Like, I wouldn't be upset about this if this was in my fridge and it was 11 o'clock at night and I got home from the farm after
Yeah.
a late night work. It's a sweet treat.
Yeah.
I'm not upset.
Well, what's interesting about it is like you're not getting any cheese flavor.
None.
You're not.
No.
You know, because you're
And
not
Velveeta
adding
does
cheese.
taste-
It's not a true cheese, right?
Sure, but the
It's-
Velveeta does smell American cheesy.
Oh
It
yeah,
does.
oh, absolutely.
It's got that very pungent, cheesy front
you're-
tone.
so it's
Very,
just-
very might be
it's-
strong.
Yeah, it's adding texture. It's it's adding fat, right?
I just got the walnut in
Um,
it. It makes it even better.
It does.
It's not
it does-
unpleasant.
It's-
right?
So
Not unpleasant.
it's just kind of interesting. So when you presented this idea for this episode, and I was doing my research, and I was hastily googling cheese chocolate because I didn't realize it was going to be fudge, right? And Velveeta chocolate. So a couple things popped up. One being, and we talked about this off air. Compartes in LA creates a Velveeta cheese.
I saw the picture. It's
Yeah,
beautiful.
a Velveeta cheese truffle. It is in the shape of a shell, just like the macaroni, right? And
I think the Mold Brothers make those molds for them.
Yeah.
There's a company, I love them.
it's a beautiful chocolate. They use white chocolate for the ganache.
Yep.
And so you can really taste the Velveeta in there when you bite into it. It's like this creamy thing. So there is that, and then the other thing that just kept popping up because I couldn't tell if we were talking about chocolate cheese or cheese chocolate. It was all very kerfuffled for me. I'm like, what exactly are we going to be talking about here? The other thing that kept popping up was Vosges, who does
Mhm.
a Taleggio chocolate bar that they call the Rooster.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
She does such good work out of
It's
Chicago.
Amazing. And when I lived in Chicago, I remember her opening, and I would go there all the time. All the time. It was right by the Lego store. So you could go look at Legos and like while you're eating your chocolate, eating her truffles. I think she does actually add walnuts to that bar, but the idea was to have like this creamy, stinky cheese, mixed into a bar, right? And then later she played with harder cheeses, like cheddar and so on and so forth. But the third thing that popped up that I thought was really interesting was in Colombia, they do a hot chocolate drink and they add cheese to it. And it's a common thing that's been going on for decades. And what's interesting about it is, like, even though they whisk this like salty, white, creamy cheese into it. The idea is that it does settle to the bottom, and that's kind of the treat. When you finish the hot chocolate, you're getting that cheesy goodness at the bottom, right?
That's fascinating.
It is so fascinating. So these are the things that I encountered while I was studying up and doing some research. And so I guess what I expect when you brought this in, like these other products I was learning about, I expected the cheese to really pop through. Like
Doesn't at
you're
all.
going to like on the
If you hadn't
finish-
told me, I wouldn't know.
Right.
I would have said this is not great fudge, but
Yeah.
Right.
it's not bad.
Right.
Yeah, like I just thought I would get like this like swoop of velvety cheese flavor somehow at the end, and it's not. It tastes to me like and for any of you out there who did like to lick the brownie batter bowl when you're a kid, and then you get that granulated chocolatey goodness that's out of powdered chocolate and canola oil and egg, whatever you were putting into your mix. It's like that, just in a little bit of a more solid form. So
Yeah,
I
it's
can
like
see how
something that
this is
hasn't quite
appealing.
baked. It's like a
Right.
mixture that hasn't quite baked. The sugar's
Yeah.
still somewhat like. It's funny that it's powdered sugar and it has a crystallisy texture to it in there,
Yeah.
which must be the corn syrup that's in there, because you had corn syrup in there.
There's some corn syrup,
Yeah.
but the powdered sugar also has cornstarch in it, right? That's kind of just
Uh,
part of the American powdered sugar
That's
recipe.
disturbing and also sad.
Right.
It's interesting. So I was scrolling down. I'm gonna both have you go watch this lovely lady. She's amazing. I mean, she's TikTok, YouTube famous. It is Emmy Made, EMMYMADE. Wonderful lady. Does lots of different recipes all around the world. Really fantastic. In her comments, and this is back from 2019. There's this one by this lovely lady who's like, "Oh, I remember making this in school in 1965. I feel like this is like a kid-friendly recipe, right? You can put this in the microwave, melt it,
Sure.
mix it in a bowl, chuck it in the fridge, and you're good to go. It's like totally a school recipe, because you remember those.
Yeah.
You're not really allowed to touch hot stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
And I know you're melting a microwave, but you're not really allowed to touch stuff. It is a kid-safe fudge recipe.
Right. There's
And
there's
it's-
barely any measuring. Barely.
Yeah, yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right.
But you have done some science basically and created this thing that has solidified. This is like, it's got that nice feel of it being like a kid-friendly recipe.
That's really interesting because I thought I also read somewhere that this was something that kind of originated in the 80s. But
No, this woman says she made it back in 1965.
Right.
Velveeta just turned 100. Did
Okay.
you guys know that? It
No,
goes
not at
back
all.
to like 23. So it's just kind of curious how it's evolved on as an ingredient, and that people are already kind of thinking like cheese and chocolate go together somehow during the mid-century. You know what I mean? Because I picture it more as kind of like a savoury ingredient.
Oh,
You know,
absolutely.
like it's going into casseroles or you're putting it on bread.
See, I like the
Yeah.
idea that it liberates the brain to think. I mean it about the citric acid and emulsifications and holding things together. There was we did on a recent episode, I talked about it. Chef Steps told you how to make American cheese.
Yes.
And I don't know what episode was that on.
It's a good question.
Go back and listen to the 3 previous episodes where we were on. It's so good in learning the science behind what does things. And like when you look Harold McGee's like science books about cooking, Velveeta does a job in it is using the science that is out there, and culinary specialists of Michelin star restaurants are doing the same thing on the other side. So you've got this Heinz Kraft Velveeta cheese, and then you'll have 3 Michelin star restaurants using the same science to do the same things of emulsifications and holding fats together to do this.
Similar
Yeah,
things.
yeah, no,
right? because you can do that with actual real cheese, whereas
Hun-
this one has no cheese in it.
100%.
Right.
I do like the underlying science is basically the same, and the choice. I do hear that like it was a way to use up cheese scraps. It now isn't, because the cheese scraps they found a way to probably turn them into more money than into this product.
I like that we have like this whole spectrum of cheese, right? We've got the Campbell's cheese soup,
Sure.
Yeah.
which I put far on one side, and I feel like the Velveeta is next to that, and then we've got the American cheese slices that actually have a cheese, and then not the ones that are the cheese product, but the ones that are actual cheese, right? Then the chef made ones, and then actually real legit cheese.
Yeah, you know what this reminds me of? Did we talk about this yet? Like around Halloween about the cheese board pairings they were trying to do with different types of Halloween candy, like a Snickers bar goes with this cheese, and
No.
like it was like an
I missed
Instagram
that one.
thing. Okay, or
The one
TikTok.
that blows me away, and you may be doing this because it doesn't sound like it should work, and it really upsets me because I love it, is the mimolette with the candy corn.
Yes,
Mm.
yes.
Yeah.
See, we never got down into the mimolette thing, but
Yeah.
the mimolette is
Yeah.
the fondue cheese. Mimolette has
Oh.
always been the
Mhm.
fondue
Oh.
cheese of choice for me.
Wow.
I was always told that's what it was.
Huh.
The cannonball cheese was
Interesting.
always
Yeah.
meant to be for that. I thought they were. So mimolette, for those of you listening and don't go, Google it. It comes like a cannonball. It's a bizarre looking cheese. It's very orangey in the center, like in a subtle orange way, not a
No, not subtle. Right.
Okay,
right.
but it's not like-
Not
not,
like
not
an
subtle at
added
all,
orange
right?
I shouldn't
No,
say-
but it's an otto, right? It's
it's not-
It's a
it's
lot of
not-
an otto. It's more orange than the.
Yeah,
the
it's
Velveeta.
a deeper orange in the way that it is, but the outside's like mottled.
Sure. Yeah.
In the way it's aged, and it's very hard. It is not a nibbling cheese. You want to do something with that cheese.
I would nibble the.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I don't
Right,
like a mimolette.
especially with the candy corn.
Oh, you're
Oh,
very
Right,
confused.
yeah.
can't, that's right.
I mean, I
Right.
have to try it now.
But it's one of those cheeses that is that can have a spot on a cheese board if you are prioritizing color and visual appeal to a cheese board.
I think that like scrolling down these comments, because I am still scrolling down them, 'cause I find it, I mean, I don't. She has 1,551 comments on this one. That's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
I
of
don't know if
comments.
that's a lot for her or not.
Yep.
But everyone's so excited. This was my grandmother's. I remember making this with my blah. I think this is like with Velveeta cheese or American cheese. This is the same equivalent of like one of my childhood friend memories that just worked its way through. I do like that it's not very clear cut where it came from or why, and that it's
Right.
just it's been there. And it
Yeah.
seems to have been there for a long time. You said 1980s. Clearly, it's older than the 1960s. It's
Yeah.
got to go further back. Somebody was like, yeah.
Right,
So-
and because it is so strange, and because it hasn't really had this big sort of groundswell of support, people really truly believe that this was just a small, silly regional thing that happened at my local church, and so this is an Iowa thing.
Yeah,
or
yeah,
this-
yeah.
Or this is a Southern thing, right? Or this is a Minnesota thing, right? But right.
This one lady's like, my brother always makes this for Christmas. It brings us so much joy. It's like when we were kids with our grandma. And I'm just like that. That makes me happy, and I do not unlike it. I might make this for Joni's family,
and I really think that
it'll probably be the best thing they've ever had for me.
You could probably do things to improve the texture on this, with who knows what, right?
It's been very shelf stable as well.
Yeah.
I do appreciate, because some of my fudge, if I do make soft fudge, isn't meant to be. And so what I let my fudge do if I make it is soft, which I do like soft fudge.
Mhm.
So under temp, you slightly under temp it. You leave it out at room temperature to skin up.
Mhm.
And then you turn it, you let it skin up, then you cut it into strips. You then let that skin up, and then you cut it again.
Mm.
So it's making this protective layer on the outside, keeps it really soft on the inside, but it doesn't like ooze.
Oh yeah,
I know that
right.
sounds, but
I get it.
right, it needs to have some structure to hold it. This has been out at room temperature. It's still, and it's honestly not warm, and it's, even though it's been out for hours now.
Sure.
It does soften as you touch it, obviously.
Sure,
you know,
but it's not unpleasant. I will finish my 3 pieces happily.
Yeah, it does leave an oily sheen on your fingers, right? Right, but
And your inside.
right, but I was expecting that it would leave, sort of a stickiness on the palate.
There's
right? So-
no bad aftertaste.
Right. The finish is surprisingly clean, right? It doesn't have that gumminess that I might expect for something that.
It is
right.
funny you say it when you do hold it and warm it at all. It is trying to separate the oils. You can see it trying to shed some of the excess oil.
Well, once you add the oil or your fingers to it, then it's like, okay, too much.
But I like that we're pushing the fat envelope of this, right? Right. That this is super saturated with fat, right? As much fat
Pushed it
as you
as
can,
far as it can.
as far as you can. I do think. The official recipe on the Velveeta site calls for chopped pecans. When we were talking about fudge in the last episode, we talked about fudge. I thought that the pecans, wherever you're from, are just a little bit too sweet, that it needs a little bit of bitterness to this. But I think you could also amp this up with some spices in there. You could
A little bit of cayenne, something in there, like a roasted.
a little cayenne, or you could also put in some espresso powder and sort of deepen the chocolate.
Like some cinnamon and cayenne to make it more.
There's
like
not a lot to hate. And if you're
Yeah.
trying to make a pie, I mean, I'm just thinking of I'm not. I guess I am advocating. I'd make this. Like, if this was a kid's thing that we were making, I've gone and cooked it like where my kids had summer camp and different things. This is something I could make with the kids, and that they would then go home and make. Because getting you in the kitchen and making anything, even not from scratch things, I am still supportive of. If this is getting you into the frame of mind of combining separate ingredients to make a thing, there is nothing bad here, and you could have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah,
I do think the chocolate is kind of necessary.
as opposed to the cocoa. Going for baker's
Yeah,
chocolate.
I
Yep.
do think that also, like, how you would make a vanilla version of this would be very hard.
Sure. Right.
What else you could put in there to even just hide the color would be the game, right? Like, what's the other?
Right. Yeah.
Because that would put you off of what that could be.
Right. If you did like a but even if you did a white chocolate thing, there's so much sugar.
Yeah,
in there.
yeah,
You
Right.
need to have something that's.
I would be curious.
Like, you
about
could
the
make a
white
strawberry
chocolate.
one.
Like, why did Compartes do white chocolate with theirs? Like, I'm curious. Why would you skip the cocoa?
I think you should reach out and ask.
I know. Like, was
Well, I think they wanted to highlight the color, right?
they wanted to highlight the
they
orange?
wanted to highlight the orange. They wanted
Yeah.
you to know what it
But I
was.
think, like,
were
you could
eating.
get away with like a strawberry, like a garishly strawberry.
Mhm.
I'm maybe advocating that, like, this isn't a terrible thing. This is something like in the morning before you had to go to your aunt's at 9 in the morning. You're leaving at noon. You could make this, put this in the fridge, and you're good to go.
It takes about, they say, at least 3 hours to
Perfect.
go in the fridge, right? And overnight. I did this after dinner, so I cooked dinner.
Yeah,
Cleaned up from dinner once everyone was in bed.
I
I
could
threw this
imagine, like,
together.
I forgot to make something to go to someone's
Right.
family gathering.
And
I
it's
made it in the morning. We got there. I said, "Hey, can I put this in your fridge? Leave it in there for a bit longer."
Sure.
You're pretty
Yeah.
good to go.
You
Yeah.
should make it boozy.
Ooh.
I do wonder if that would change how it sets.
Or add
Right.
some peanut butter.
I wonder what it would be if you added a little bit more citric acid into there as well.
I also wonder what would happen if you left out the corn syrup.
Yeah.
Right. And just so that people are,
I'm less excited about a corn syrup of all the ingredients.
Yeah.
but I do.
Coughing up my
right,
lung while I say this.
I
think
feel
that's
like
funny.
we need to mention the corn syrup thing just real quickly because there's a difference between corn syrup and high fructose.
Sure.
corn syrup.
They are two
Right.
separate things.
Completely separate things. Corn syrup is a traditional ingredient that is used in lots of candy making. Is completely okay
Yeah,
for you.
I think
Yeah.
if you maybe I'll try to make it with Tate and Lyle's golden syrup.
Oh,
Mm.
Because honestly, that's got its own like brown sugary flavor, like very 40 brown sugary flavors. Again, I'm not upset with it at all.
Yeah.
You could also make your own inverted sugar into that game.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
So what is interesting about
We are
this too
45
is, like,
minutes into this and winning.
Yeah, and winning. 45 minutes to talk about Velveeta Fudge. So while it doesn't have the flavor of the cheese, what I appreciate about it is that the texture is slightly firmer than the actual Velveeta, right? You know, so you
It's
do get
definitely
a very,
different texture than the Velveeta. The
It's very
Velveeta feels
different.
more.
God.
but it's definitely got a cheese-like texture to it. So like it makes me think of, because there is chocolate cheese out there, right? Like we were talking about Frankenmuth in our
Things
Christmas
do exist in
episode.
that chocolate cheese.
Yeah,
world.
yeah.
right.
Like Frankenmuth has a chocolate cheese. Like there's other like brands that have like a chocolate cheese that you actually slice into, and that's what this reminds me of. But you don't get the cheese flavors, you get the texture of like almost a semi hard cheese.
So what's interesting is, I actually think of some cheeses as having a fudgy texture to them.
Right.
Right.
So vice
I-
versa. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm
Right.
so not upset with this at all.
Yeah.
I've a shocked episode that Kieran will leave and be like, I just can imagine making this. I'm kind of sad my kids are as old as they are. I wouldn't mind them being a bit younger, because this would have been a fun, like, one of those first 10 recipes. Not that I
Oh, yeah.
want to encourage
Mhm.
this recipe, but like this is something Joni's mum, Laura, would have made with my kids, because
Right.
it's bulletproof.
Right. Well, while there is 2 pounds of sugar in this 13 by 9-inch sheet pan, right? You're cutting out these these are, I think, slightly less than 1-inch cubes, right? You get a tremendous number of these out of there, and they are quite satisfying on their own. You don't need to.
I've
eat.
eaten 2, and it's
Right.
not because I don't want to eat the third, but I'm got a lot of sugar in me.
Yeah,
From
right.
those, and I'm a sweet guy, but like I don't feel sickly over full. I just more of like 2, and I'm pretty happy. I had my
Yeah.
sweet
Right.
treat.
I can see overindulging and then getting kind of like that.
Oh, I wouldn't want to
Yeah,
eat like
there's
6 of
way-
these
way too
suckers.
much.
But
fat
I
and-
feel that way about fudge in general,
Yeah.
right? Like that fudge in general, well-made stuff, the stuff on Mackinac Island, right? Like it's still like just a little bit, just a little square.
We made it here, and we would give it with our pie and mash
Mhm.
for years and years and years. And it was a reason to make fudge, and I like making fudge.
Yeah.
And then somebody wrote in one of their code reds that we got from it, it was oversweet. I'm like, it's fudge.
Yeah.
Like, what? How would you like me to unsweeten it? And they said uninspiring, and it was like the double cream vanilla fudge. I'm like, okay, but it's fudge. It's
classic.
sweet, and this is it. Like, you might not be a fudge person in this world, and I think that like fudge is meant to be super sweet, and it's meant to be a little treat. It's not
Yep.
meant to be. I think too much of it is those big like card size thick, card pack size thick slices now that people take home. That is meant to be like, that's you for a week of
Yes.
nibbling on
Right.
this thing, not
Right.
consuming.
Yeah.
Which is why I get so upset when they sell it. Like they're the cost breaks for buying like 3 or 4 of them, right? Because it encourages you to buy 3 or 4 of them, which is
100%. That's the game.
far more fudge than anyone needs.
All right, so this was Velveeta recipe.
Yeah.
This is solid. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't mess with it. I'm sure that some of the others might be better or different. I don't think I'd mess with this too much.
I might mess with it.
The corn syrup's the only thing I would want to maybe switch or play around with, but it's not. The
Right.
fact that it works.
Yeah, no, I think adding some dry espresso powder into this, amplify. Right,
A little bit of orange essence oil. or something.
You don't want to
Yeah.
like roll it in a ball and inject it with peanut butter and call it a Bucky ball.
oh, but that could be fun too.
Sorry about your
Is
last
that-
Ohio
is-
State.
Yeah. Sorry about your loss, Ohio. That's what I was gonna say. Oh, that was a rough day.
um,
Oh.
Right.
I do want to add I want to add a layer of something to the top. You know what I mean? Like butterscotch.
See, I think something more
Yeah.
savory than sweet, right? Like
Yeah.
I like the peanut butter idea.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah, peanut butter and butterscotch or something. Yeah.
I could see
Like,
that, like
yeah.
butterscotch in there, like a Werther's original melted into this.
Ooh.
Mmm.
Too sweet.
Do love a good
Right.
Werther's,
What
little,
a
little streak of Werther's in there. You
Yeah.
can make it and then fold in some melted Werther's.
And if you wanted to get bougie with it,
Coffee.
right? The my favorite Italian roasted hazelnuts.
Oh.
Mm,
Yeah,
mhm.
from the long region of Piedmont.
Or you could do some
Ooh.
finely diced cheese. Sprinkled in for good measure. Or it could be like the penny of figgy pudding, but you put a lump of cheese in it just to remind you this was Velveeta.
Right. Part of me was, as I was melting this down in the double boiler and I was seeing some streaks of the Velveeta still come through, part of me had a thought about, wouldn't it be lovely
To
leave a few streaks?
We call that like raspberry ripple ice cream over here. Guys don't do that very much. Like where you've got like those fold in.
We have some of
Is
that.
Is there some? Because I've never
right.
seen the ice cream like that, the raspberry ripples.
What if you did one of
Ripple
those
fudge.
like Kraft cheese sauces and did like a ripple? And then added a few shells to the top.
Well, we've been doing this for 50 minutes about Velveeta Fudge. I think this is where we kill the podcast.
I think that's correct.
This is one of the more fascinating ones. I like this because it isn't something that was on my radar at all. And isn't like, while there are people who have done stuff and it's not like a secret thing out there, it's not front and center. And I think this is like one of those school time class recipes you probably had back in the 60s and 70s and never really made it out of that.
Yeah, and a great thing to bring to a potluck. Whether or not you choose to disclose what's in it, I feel like you don't have to.
Careful at this year's Beauchamp family Christmas. I'm going to be bringing Velveeta Fudge. All right, my lovelies. Well, you have a wonderful day, Daniel. This was a rock star. Thank you, Marcy. You have a great afternoon. Thank you so much, my lovelies, for tuning in and listening to today's episode of the Heartland Hot Dish podcast. Hit that like button, subscribe, and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us grow and reach more listeners just like you. Until next time, keep savoring the flavors of the Heartland and sharing the love for this vibrant community. Take care and stay connected.